In today's video, I'm going to take you guys through my entire onboarding process from A to B, from first receiving payment with the client, then establishing action items for week one of my work with them. Let's dive straight into it. So, of course, at the latter end of my consultation call with my prospects, which they book typically via my social media. So I'll pull up the example of this via Calendly. They can either book this via YouTube, via school, or via Instagram. Those are three platforms that I leverage for acquisition, or of course, via referrals that have been sent to them via clients of mine, friends of theirs, etc. They book in their consultation call. It's typically 30 to 45 minutes long in duration. And therefore, of course, if we agree to then work together, we proceed with payments. As you guys can see here, this is the payment link that I leverage for my service. I currently charge £15,000 for my first 12 weeks of work with my clients, and then extend that into monthly recurring after the initial 12 weeks of delivery is facilitated. Typically, of course, within the initial 12 weeks, the primary objective is to regain quality of health of the client I'm working with. Then subsequent to that, of course, with the monthly recurring, optimize all components of their health. And I typically work with the client for a period of about 2 years. Therefore, my LTV is now close towards £40,000 per client I work with. So yeah, in a really good spot right now, which is great. And again, this is all facilitated in a one-to-one manner with personalized service delivery. So I receive payments. If, of course, we're on the call and there is any ambiguity as to whether or not the client is going to proceed, we need to clarify what's going to happen there on the consultation. They're either proceeding and we take payment, or they're not. We don't leave the call with any ambiguity. And therefore, of course, we send across the payment link and they can complete it, as you guys can see on screen here. They can pay with Klarna. They can pay in outright payments via, obviously, a debit card or their credit card. Revolut Pay, Google Pay, there's many payment options for them. And of course, they can even pay that on their phone, which is really straightforward. Once payment is taken, I then, of course, run them through their service agreement. You guys can see an example of this, and I'll create a video detailing my service agreement and why it's structured in this manner. And as you guys can see here, of course, we require that the client then signs that, and that's actually completed during the consultation call before any onboarding takes place. Once the payment's made, and of course, we have received their signature for the service agreement, we then clarify what will take place next. I clarify to them, having already acquired their mobile number via the consultation call booking, that I'll then contact them via WhatsApp to send them through their onboarding form link, which they need to complete prior to the onboarding call, and of course them to then schedule their onboarding call with me as well. Again, I facilitate all my client delivery in a one-to-one manner, and therefore I'll take the onboarding call myself with the client, as I do every other component of delivery. You guys can see an example of the message that I send the client here as soon as we conclude the consultation call. I'm very much looking forward to kickstarting our work together. Insert their name. If you could please complete your onboarding form prior to our onboarding call, and then I've of course referred to an existing client of mine here, that would be super. The onboarding form link is provided here, as you guys can see, and here's your onboarding call booking link, as you guys can see as well. So I thought I'd take you guys through this so you can see examples of what these look like. So my onboarding form is extremely comprehensive and detailed, and therefore, as you can see, I informed the client of the fact that it's going to take about 30 minutes to complete. The reason why I want to acquire as much information from them as possible in the onboarding form, although it's of course a burden to them and therefore requires 30 minutes of their time, is to ensure the onboarding call is as efficient as possible. I am informed of all the information I need from the client in advance of the call taking place to determine immediate priorities with them and get a basal understanding of their quality of health, what we need to regain and optimize with them as individuals specifically. And therefore, the entire process is much more efficient by having this information provided to me in advance of the call taking place. So they complete their form and then they proceed to then schedule their onboarding call via the link provided here in Calendly, as you guys can see. And they can select a time of their own choosing. I take my calls with my clients on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, typically in the afternoon. So as you guys can see, I give context to the client as to what's going to be discussed on the call, and we then proceed from there. Pretty straightforward. So those are the kind of technical formalities, essentially. Now that's taken care of, as you guys can see, I leverage Asana for all client delivery and management of client delivery, essentially. I previously used Trello. I previously used different Drive documents, folders, etc. It was extremely complex and really irritating to navigate for both myself and the client. And therefore, I keep things extremely simple now, and I use Asana. So I thought I'd take you guys through it so you can see what that looks like and become somewhat familiar with it and potentially adopt the same system. And for context, this onboarding process I'm sharing with you guys, I've developed over the last 10 years. I've now been operating in the online space for about 10 years. There's been many periods of trial and error, and this is now the most effective system for delivery that, of course, I've developed. And all clients really appreciate it and like it. Hence, of course, the significant LTV I generate from my one-to-one clients now. So as you can see, we have testing products. I'll run through these individually in a second. Meal plan introduction, blood, gut, DEXA scan results, and VO2 max test results as well. Introduction to their workout program. These are all separate pillars. Their physique check-in photos, their weigh-ins, their onboarding action items, essentially preparation for the call to take place. And then, of course, their action items on a weekly basis in preparation for the one-to-one calls I host with them. So the onboarding call is the longest call of the process by far. It typically takes me about 40 to 45 minutes to complete with each individual client I work with, because it's the call via which the most significant exchange of information takes place with regards to me gaining a comprehensive understanding of their current situation and their goals, and also, of course, them to ask me any questions that they have. So that's the longest call. And then after that, every weekly call typically takes between 15 to 30 minutes. It's pretty efficient. And the reason why it's efficient is because I take care of a lot of the work on behalf of my clients. And then also second to that as well, I converse with all of my clients on a daily basis via WhatsApp. So certain clients I exchange 10 messages per day with, other clients it could be as many as 30. And therefore a lot of the heavy lifting work is done throughout the week via WhatsApp, as opposed to needing to be done via a call, which is more effective for both parties, myself and the client, because the clients typically don't like to have to jump on calls all the time. Most business owners I work with resent excessive calls, as do I. So it works very effectively for all involved, which is great. Okay, so let's dive into the onboarding process specifically. As you guys can see here, we have onboarding action items as well. This is the first thing we share with the client upon conducting the onboarding call. So this is broken down into 6 components. Firstly, we're going to review their onboarding intake form inputs, which of course they already completed in advance of the call. In this instance, I've referred to this client as being client S to protect their privacy. We confirm their goals, both short and long term, for enrolling in the program and working with myself specifically. We give them access to school because we have course modules in school. However, the individuals that I work with are so busy with operating their 6 to 9 figure businesses, they don't want to have to go through course modules, but I provide them access to it anyway, just to ensure that if they are wanting to nerd out on any particular component of health, they can do so via my modules. If not, that's perfectly fine. I facilitate all delivery one-to-one, and therefore the modules are an accessory. They're not a necessary component of delivery, nor are a prerequisite for success at all. I then provide them with access to Asana. So, of course, what I'll do here is I'll share them a link either via email or actually via a copied link as well. Give them access to the Asana dashboards. They have access to everything that I have access to. And all of our work together is hosted in one platform. All data, all information, all action items. Everything is all here, which makes it extremely easy for both parties. I then open up into a Q&A session and therefore answer any remaining questions that the client has, and then confirm next steps by booking their post-onboarding call, which is their weekly recurring call. Okay, pretty straightforward. So, of course, having already received their onboarding form, and again, this is what it looks like in Typeform, and this is customized, meaning that based on the information and the inputs the client provides me with, that determines the next question they're asked. So this Typeform specifically took about a month to build out. It was quite complex, but it now means that the amount of information we acquire from the clients is a lot. It's comprehensive and it gives me everything that I need. And also it means that the form is then personalized based on the client's individual responses, as opposed to it being a generic form, because generic forms cause extreme frustration for most people who have paid a lot of money for a product, as they pay myself. So as we can see, of course, we require the name, address, phone, email, role, company size, because I like to get as much data from the client as possible, and preferred communication platform. In the main, it's WhatsApp. Most clients of mine resent Slack because, of course, they use it for business purposes, and therefore I can understand why they want to use WhatsApp, and I prefer WhatsApp anyway. Makes things really straightforward. We then dive into motives, expectations, and vision. And by the way, all this information here, this is just a summary of everything they provided me with in the onboarding form in their intake, of which, of course, we upload a PDF of. So we can see here, for this client specifically, you can see their prompts, their inputs they provided me with, all the data that I need to acquire from them, which is an awful lot of data. And you can also see then how the questions are personalized to them as well. Yeah, we get a lot of information here, which is really, really helpful. We get their physique check-in photos, their first set of their weigh-ins, previous blood work, access to Aura or Whoop. We get everything. But this is just a summary of this, which I prepare in advance of the call taking place to ensure that when the client then attends the onboarding call, they can see that I'm extremely prepared. I've got everything set up for them. My understanding of their current situation is advanced, and therefore we can then proceed with immediate action items without any delay, which is great. For further clarity as well, I request typically that the client books in their onboarding call 24 to 48 hours post payment being received. And I express that to them during the actual payment process as well. The reason being is because I want the client to see immediate benefits from working with myself, and therefore I would like the call to take place the next day or the day after latest, to ensure, of course, we can start building some momentum and they get immediate return on their investment. So yeah, of course, I provide and complete a full summary of everything all the information that I've received from them in their onboarding form. And from that, I then establish their immediate action items. Now, you can see this list looks somewhat lengthy. This is the most lengthy list of action items that we establish throughout the entire process of working with the clients I work with. And in the main, majority of the action items I take care of. I just run through them with the client during the call to ensure that they're aware of what's going to take place next, expectations, timeframes, etc. So, for example, confirming the booking of their blood work, I take care of that. I pay for that on behalf of the client, given that I charge £15,000 for my service. I do all of that, and it also saves a lot of time for the client because the client otherwise would be scrambling around trying to find the best blood testing facilities, communicating with the facility which parameters to test for. They don't have context for that. It'd be extremely tedious for the client. And again, they're paying me for time, efficiency, and precision, and therefore I can take care of this. Having now worked with over 800 clients, doing anywhere from 6 to 9 figures per year with their businesses as well, I now understand them very, very well in terms of their personalities, their likes, their dislikes, etc., and kind of their character archetypes. And also, having worked with so many clients worldwide, I now have access to most facilities worldwide in every region of the world, which is great. And therefore, in most instances, I can simply contact previous blood testing facilities, previous VO2 max testing facilities, DEXA scan facilities, etc., that I've worked with in the past and have already established a relationship with to take care of my clients, which is awesome. I then confirm their purchase of their gut health test, which is a stool analysis. That's sent, of course, to their home address. They complete this at home. Their blood test, I can either send a nurse to their property or they can go to a clinic. It depends on their preference and their time availability, but I rather send a nurse to their home. Of course, we then confirm the booking of their DEXA scan and VO2 max test, which does require them to go to a physical testing centre, and therefore we find the most local facility of a high quality to them. I then confirm the purchase of their personalised supplementation stack. I'll show you an example of this now with Samuel. So the supplementation stack is personalised based on, of course, their needs and desires, their current quality of health, based on the medical testing that I conduct with them. And you can see an example of this being highlighted on screen here for one of my clients I've been working with now since last February. It's been a long period of time. So that's taken care of and purchased on their behalf. Obviously, I introduced them to their personalised supplementation stack as well during the onboarding call. I confirm with them that they have access to a set of functioning weight scales because, of course, we need this component of data for their body composition improvements. I confirm the purchase of their Whoop. We were previously using Aura, and I did so successfully with about 500 to 600 clients, but Aura have now made it very difficult for a coach to access a client's data due to their privacy policy, which is really irritating, whereas with Whoop, I can sign into all of my clients' dashboards and assess their metrics, which is great. I then, of course, introduce them to their meal plan template and request they add their inputs to the template straight away. I'll use an example of this here. Let's use Vedran. So this is V1 of this individual's meal plan here. And of course, the exact caloric and macronutrient intake we assign to the client is based on their body composition goals and outcomes, and their frequency of meals is dependent on both their personal preference and my point of view on this. So we asked them for their input with regards to what meals they would like to consume on a daily basis, how much variance they'd like as well from day to day, week to week. And therefore, of course, I then create a meal plan based on this and make a few refinements based on what I see as appropriate. So, for example, in this instance here, incorporation of dietary fiber sources. So you can see here we have spinach, onions, peppers, mushrooms, broccoli, some sauerkraut, kimchi, with a lot of leafy greens in there as well. We add a few additional components for the client to ensure digestive health is taken care of, depending on, of course, their quality of digestive health, which we derive both from their anecdotal feedback and also from their gut health test. So that's taken care of there. We then amend this on a weekly basis as well. I also assess their quality of nutrition in terms of their macronutrient intake, caloric intake, and micronutrient intake by asking them to complete a food log via a platform called Chronometer. And this is extremely helpful. The reason being for this is because most clients we work with have no context for what their calories are, their macros are, their micronutrient intake. They have no idea. Chronometer is basically a more advanced version of MyFitnessPal. So by asking the client to log 3 days worth of their current food intake via this platform, I get a really good understanding of their nutritional habits, whether good or bad, and therefore can, of course, adjust accordingly, which is great. I then, of course, complete a comprehensive review of their current training programming and assign their new programming, both resistance and cardiovascular. We then book their one-to-one recurring call and ensure, of course, they understand how I conduct my check-in process, with their first check-in happening this individual specifically that weekend. So yes, I have one-to-one calls every client on a weekly basis. They can book as and when they please, and they're not absolutely necessary either. They're optional calls because, of course, I conduct so much of my work with them via WhatsApp in terms of updates, written messages, voice messages, etc. A lot of it doesn't need to be done via a call. But their check-in specifically we conduct every Sunday is another check-in form that I've created via Typeform of personalised and customised the business for Peak Health specifically. And of course, I also receive their weigh-ins, their physique check-in photos, and any feedback they need to share as well in that process. And I then respond accordingly on the Monday. So that's that process taken care of. As you can then see, we then move into action items for each week. So typically for each week, I establish about 5 action items, dependent on how much we need to take care of the client. You can see here for this individual, we were speaking about their hormonal therapies and fertility, speaking about their blood work, my review of that specifically in terms of cardiovascular risk, nutrition structure, addressing concerns the individual had about their current quality of brain fog they're experiencing, and the misnomers about which dietary choice was appropriate for them. They believe keto was more appropriate and that fasting for significant periods of time was, but actually that was counterproductive for that person. Caffeine consumption, which was extremely high for this individual, which has now been reduced to 0. Hydration, electrolyte management, cardiovascular training prescription to take care of their cardiovascular health because that individual is at risk. Resistance training, Whoop setup, gut test completion, and then final alignment before the end of the call to ensure that we're both on the same page. And of course, we can clarify our action items and refer back to them at the end of the week as well. So yeah, that's my entire onboarding process from A to B. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if of course you would like any assistance with facilitating acquisition for your own online fitness and health coaching business and refining your service delivery and modeling it based on my structure, you're more than welcome to, of course, click the link in the description of this video to join my school as well, via which I help individuals in the fitness and health space essentially replicate what I've done with my business over the last 10 years, and therefore, of course, facilitate success like we're seeing on screen here with my client Marvin, who, as you can see, celebrated his first 18K month just a few months into working with myself, whilst also operating his in-person personal training facility that he owns as well. You can do both simultaneously. And he's now moving fully online and selling his gym, which is great. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Any questions, drop them in the comment section below, and I shall see you guys in the next one.